The quiet beeping of the Deep Space Monitoring Station broke the midnight silence. Tom Miller, the night shift operator at Earth's Deep Space Listening Post, rubbed his tired eyes and leaned forward in his chair. The signal wasn't like anything he had seen before. "Hey, John, come take a look at this," Tom called out to his supervisor, who was doing his usual midnight rounds. John walked over, coffee cup in hand. "What have you got?" "These energy readings. They're not natural. Too regular, too structured." Tom pointed at the scrolling data on his screen. The patterns showed clear signs of artificial power systems, but they were incredibly weak, barely detectable even with their most sensitive equipment. John placed his coffee down and frowned. "Location: edge of our solar system, just past Neptune's orbit." Tom pulled up a different screen, showing a cluster of dots. "And sir, it's not just one signal. I'm counting at least 30 separate sources, all grouped together." The discovery quickly moved up the chain of command. Within an hour, the UN Space Command's Emergency Council gathered in a virtual meeting. Admiral Wilson, the head of Earth's space rescue operations, faced the urgent situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," the Admiral addressed the council members on his screen, "our deep space monitoring stations have detected what appears to be a fleet of ships at the edge of our solar system. They're not broadcasting any known identification signals, and their power readings are critically low." Images and data flashed across their screens. The council members' faces showed a mix of concern and excitement. "Are we certain they're ships?" asked one of the council members. "The energy signatures match artificial power systems," Admiral Wilson confirmed. "But here's the concerning part. The power levels are dropping. Whatever these ships are, they're in trouble." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some argued for caution, suggesting the ships might be a threat. Others pushed for immediate action, citing humanity's duty to help. Admiral Wilson raised his hand for silence. "Whether these ships are friendly or not, they're in our solar system and in distress. Space law is clear. We have an obligation to help." The decision was made. The rescue vessel, Horizon, Earth's most advanced deep space rescue ship, was prepared for launch within 6 hours. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, reviewing the mission details with his crew. "This is what we trained for," he told them during the pre-launch briefing. "We don't know what we're going to find out there, but there might be lives at stake. Every minute counts." The Horizon was a marvel of human engineering. Built for deep space rescue operations, it carried advanced medical facilities, emergency power systems, and the latest in universal docking technology. Its crew of 50 was the best Earth had to offer: engineers, medical staff, and specialists in extraterrestrial contact protocols. As the ship broke free from Earth's orbit, Dr. Laura Reed, the ship's science officer, studied the latest data from the mysterious fleet. "Captain, these power readings keep dropping. At this rate, whatever systems they're running on will fail completely in less than a week." Captain Walker nodded grimly. "Engineering, give me everything you've got. We need to reach them in 4 days, not the planned 5. The Horizon pushed its engines to their limits, racing against time. The crew worked in shifts, preparing for every possible scenario they might encounter. They had trained for first contact situations, but this would be humanity's first real encounter with alien life. On the 4th day of their journey, the first visual contact came through their long-range cameras. The images stunned the crew into silence. Massive ships, each one larger than the biggest vessels humanity had ever built, drifted silently in the void. Their designs were alien, smooth curved surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid metal, with no visible seams or joints. "My God," whispered Captain Walker, standing at the main viewport as they drew closer. "Look at the size of them." The Horizon approached cautiously, its sensors scanning for any signs of life or active systems. The alien ships hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, their surfaces reflecting the distant sunlight like mirrors. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for, though not quite in the way anyone had expected. Their first contact with alien life wouldn't be a grand diplomatic meeting or a technological exchange. It would be a rescue mission. Captain Walker straightened his uniform. Send the universal greeting signal on all frequencies. Let's let them know help has arrived. The Horizon's crew waited anxiously after sending their greeting signal. Minutes passed with no response from the alien fleet. Captain Walker ordered a closer approach, allowing their sensors to gather more detailed readings. Captain, I'm detecting extremely low power signatures from what appears to be their life support systems, Dr. Reed reported, her eyes fixed on the sensor readings. Most of their ships are running on emergency power only. The massive alien vessels loomed ahead of them, their sleek surfaces now showing signs of damage. Dark patches marred their mirror-like hulls, and some ships had visible scorch marks along their sides. Engineering, what's your assessment? Walker asked over the ship's comm system. Chief Engineer Mark Peters responded quickly. Those ships have taken heavy damage, sir. But it's odd. The damage patterns suggest they flew through some kind of radiation storm. Nothing like our typical space hazards. Suddenly, their communication system crackled to life. A weak signal reached them, carrying with it humanity's first alien transmission. The sound was unlike anything they had heard before, a series of musical tones mixed with crystalline chimes. The ship's computer worked to decode the signal. After several tense minutes, words began to form on their screens. Help. Life support failing. 3,000 souls in hibernation. Captain Walker didn't hesitate. Dr. Reed, prepare the universal translation system. Engineering, get ready for emergency docking procedures. Medical team, stand by. The Horizon carefully maneuvered alongside the largest of the alien vessels. Through their viewports, they could see what looked like a docking port, its design surprisingly compatible with standard emergency docking procedures. As they completed the docking sequence, Captain Walker led the first contact team to the airlock. They wore their environmental suits, not knowing what atmosphere the aliens might breathe. The inner airlock door opened, revealing a corridor that seemed to be made of living crystal. The walls pulsed with faint light, growing brighter as they approached. Their suit sensors indicated the atmosphere was breathable, though slightly richer in oxygen than Earth standard. They found their way to what appeared to be a control room. There they had their first visual contact with the aliens. The sight took their breath away. The beings before them were humanoid in basic shape, but their bodies seemed to be partly crystalline. Their skin had a translucent quality, with patterns of light moving beneath the surface. Two of them stood waiting, their movements careful and measured in the low-power environment. One of the aliens stepped forward, raising a hand in what seemed to be a peaceful gesture. The translation system processed their words. I am Root, Ambassador of the Ven. We thank you for answering our distress. Walker removed his helmet, following first contact protocols. I'm Captain James Walker of the Earth rescue vessel Horizon. We're here to help. Through the translator, Ambassador Root explained their situation. The Ven were a space-faring species who had been traveling to establish a new colony. Their fleet had encountered an unexpected radiation storm, a type their ships usually could handle. But this storm had been different, more intense, affecting their crystal-based technology in ways they hadn't thought possible. Most of our people are in hibernation chambers, Root explained, leading them through corridors lined with rows of crystal pods. Inside each pod, a Ven floated in suspended animation. The pods require significant power to maintain. When our main systems were damaged, we diverted all remaining power to preserve these chambers. But even that power is failing. Dr. Reed scanned the pods with her handheld device. Captain, these hibernation systems are incredibly sophisticated, but they're nothing like our technology. The power systems are based on crystalline matrices we've never seen before. The second Ven, who introduced themselves as Lead Engineer Spark, spoke up. We estimate 3 days before the hibernation pods begin to fail. Once that happens, they didn't need to finish the sentence. Captain Walker looked at the rows of pods, each containing a living being depending on them for survival. "We'll find a way," he said firmly. Earth didn't send its best rescue ship just to stand by and watch. He turned to his team. "Contact the Horizon. I want every engineer we have working on this. We need to figure out how to adapt our power systems to their technology. And we need to do it fast." The race against time had begun. 3,000 lives hung in the balance, and humanity faced its first real test in the galactic community. The next few days would prove whether humans could do more than just make first contact. They would show if humanity could be the heroes these aliens desperately needed. The Horizon's engineering bay had never been busier. Chief Engineer Peters stood at the main workbench, surrounded by pieces of crystal technology from the Ven ships. Engineers worked at every station, running tests and making calculations. "The problem isn't just power," Peters explained to Captain Walker, pointing at the crystal fragments. "Their whole system works differently from ours. It's like trying to power a computer with a steam engine. The energy types just don't match." Dr. Reed walked in carrying new scanner readings. "The Ven use crystalline matrices to channel energy. Our power systems are too crude. We might damage their delicate systems if we connect directly." Time was running out. 2 members of the Ven crew had come aboard the Horizon to help. They watched with obvious worry as the human engineers struggled with their technology. "Look at this," one of the younger engineers called Bill said, holding up a small crystal. When he connected it to a power source, the crystal lit up briefly before cracking. "Even our lowest power settings are too rough for their systems." Peters wiped sweat from his forehead. "We need to find a way to smooth out our power delivery. Make it more gentle." That's when Bill's eyes lit up. "What about the plasma containment systems? We use magnetic fields to control plasma. Couldn't we use something similar to control our power flow?" The idea sparked excitement among the engineers. Plasma containment was one of humanity's greatest achievements in space technology. They used magnetic fields to hold and control the hot plasma that powered their ships. "If we can modify the containment fields," Peters said, thinking out loud, "we might be able to create a buffer between our power systems and theirs." They worked through the night, setting up a test system. They took one of the smaller crystal power nodes from the Ven ships and built a special chamber around it. The chamber used magnetic fields to control how power reached the crystal. The Ven engineers watched with interest. Through the translator, one of them said, "Your solution is unusual. We would never have thought to use magnetic fields this way." The first tests failed. The crystals couldn't handle the power flow, and several shattered. But with each failure, they learned more. They adjusted the magnetic fields, changed the power levels, tried different configurations. "Wait," Dr. Reed said, looking at the test results. "The crystals don't just channel power. They sing with it. Look at these frequency patterns." This was the breakthrough they needed. Instead of trying to force their power through the crystals, they needed to match the crystal's natural frequency. The magnetic fields could help them tune their power delivery to work in harmony with the Ven technology. They set up another test. This time, they used the magnetic fields to make their power pulse in rhythm with the crystal's natural frequency. The crystal began to glow, softly at first, then with increasing brightness. "It didn't crack. It's working," Bill shouted. The power readings showed a stable flow. But they weren't finished yet. Making this work for one small crystal was very different from powering entire ships. They needed to scale up their solution, and quickly. The Ven engineers helped them understand how their ship's power networks functioned. Together, they designed a larger version of their test system, one that could power an entire ship. "We'll test it on the smallest ship first," Captain Walker decided. "If it works, we can scale up for the larger vessels." They worked against exhaustion, knowing that with each passing hour, more hibernation pods were at risk. The engineering team built their power transfer system, triple-checking every connection. The Ven helped them connect it to their smallest ship. Everyone held their breath as they initiated the power transfer. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, lights began to flicker on throughout the alien vessel. Systems started to come online. The ship's own power network began to stabilize. Power levels rising, Peters reported, watching the readings carefully. Crystal Matrix is accepting the energy. All systems are stable. The Ven engineers made sounds that the translator interpreted as expressions of joy and relief. Their technology was accepting the human power supply, transformed by the magnetic containment fields. They had done it. They had found a way to bridge the gap between human and alien technology. But they couldn't celebrate yet. They still had to scale up their solution to save the rest of the fleet. Captain Walker looked at his tired but proud engineering team. Good work, everyone. But let's save the celebrations for after we rescue the entire fleet. While the Horizon's crew worked to save the Ven fleet, news of the alien discovery had reached Earth. The UN Security Council called an emergency meeting in New York. Representatives from every major nation gathered to discuss this unprecedented situation. Admiral Wilson stood before the council, explaining the rescue mission. The chamber's screen showed images of the Ven ships and their crystalline inhabitants. The Horizon has successfully powered one of the smaller vessels, he reported, but they need more resources to save the entire fleet. The Chinese representative stood up first. These aliens have technology far beyond ours. How do we know this isn't a trap? They could be pretending to be helpless. Our scans confirm their ships are genuinely damaged. Admiral Wilson replied. These people are in real danger. The Russian delegate spoke next. If we help them, we reveal Earth's location to an advanced alien civilization. This could be a security risk. The debate grew heated. Some nations wanted to send more rescue ships. Others demanded the aliens be kept at a distance until more was known about them. Back on the Horizon, Captain Walker received the news of Earth's political chaos with frustration. He called an urgent meeting with Ambassador Root in the ship's conference room. My people are arguing about whether to help you, Walker explained honestly. They're afraid of what might happen after we save your fleet. Root's crystalline features reflected the room's lights as they considered this. Fear of the unknown is natural, they said through the translator. Perhaps I can help ease their concerns. Together, they set up a direct communication link to the UN Security Council. Root's image appeared on the screens in New York, causing a hushed silence to fall over the chamber. Leaders of Earth, Root began, their translated voice clear and dignified. I understand your fears, but let me tell you about the Ven. They explained how their civilization had grown beyond warfare centuries ago. The Ven were explorers and scientists, seeking knowledge across the galaxy. They had encountered many young civilizations before, always choosing observation over interference. Yet here we are, Root continued, saved from discovery by your people's kindness. This rescue shows us something remarkable about humanity. The Indian representative spoke up. And what is that? You heard our distress call and came to help without knowing anything about us. This courage and compassion is rare in the galaxy. Many species would have ignored us or waited until it was too late. The mood in the council chamber began to shift. The Japanese delegate stood up. If we turn them away now, what does that say about humanity? More nations began to voice their support. The British representative pointed out that helping the Ven could lead to beneficial exchanges of knowledge and culture. But some still worried about Earth's security. The Brazilian delegate asked Root directly, how can we be sure other alien civilizations won't follow you here? Root's answer was simple but powerful. We Ven have a saying. Those who help in times of need build bridges that last eternities. We would consider Earth under our protection, not a target for others. This statement caused a stir. The idea of having an advanced civilization's protection appealed to many council members. Admiral Wilson seized the moment. The Horizon needs resources to save the entire fleet. Every hour we delay puts more lives at risk. I need your decision now. The UN Secretary General called for a vote. One by one, nations raised their hands in support of the rescue mission. Even the most cautious countries eventually agreed. though some added conditions about future diplomatic arrangements. Captain Walker received the news with relief. Earth would send 3 more rescue ships loaded with the special equipment they needed. "Your people made the right choice," Root told Walker after the council meeting ended. "The Ven will remember this." Walker smiled. "We're not doing this for political gain. We're doing it because it's right." Root's crystalline form seemed to glow slightly brighter. "And that, Captain, is exactly why your species gives us hope." The political storm had passed, but the real challenge still lay ahead. They had to save thousands of lives before the hibernation pods failed. Earth had chosen to help, but time was still their greatest enemy. 3 more rescue ships arrived from Earth, bringing with them the equipment needed to save the Ven fleet. The space around Neptune's orbit had become busy with activity as human ships worked alongside the massive alien vessels. Chief Engineer Peters coordinated the rescue operation from the Horizon's main engineering bay. Screens showed the status of each Ven ship, with warning indicators flashing on several of them. "The largest ship is our biggest concern," he explained to the gathered engineers from all 4 human vessels. "It's their main colony ship, holding over 1,000 hibernation pods. If we get the power transfer wrong, we could lose them all." The rescue ships had brought larger versions of their power transfer system. Each one used massive magnetic field generators to smooth out the power flow. The engineers had also brought improved crystal matrix adapters, designed based on what they'd learned from the first successful transfer. "We'll power up the ships in order of size," Captain Walker announced, "starting with the medium-sized vessels first. Each successful transfer will help us understand how to handle the colony ship." The work began immediately. Teams of human and Ven engineers worked together on each ship. The humans handled the power systems while the Ven guided them through their ship's crystal networks. Bill, who had helped discover the original solution, monitored the power flows. "It's like conducting an orchestra," he explained to a Ven engineer. "We have to keep all the frequencies in harmony." The first medium-sized ship powered up successfully. Its crystal systems glowed with renewed energy, and hundreds of hibernation pods stabilized. The second and third ships followed, each transfer smoother than the last. But the colony ship was different. Its power needs were enormous, and its crystal network was far more complex. "The magnetic fields need to be perfectly synchronized," Dr. Reed said, studying the ship's schematics. "Even a tiny misalignment could cause a cascade failure." They set up the largest power transfer system ever built by humans. 4 ships linked their power plants together, feeding energy through a massive array of magnetic field generators. The setup looked like a giant web of energy, connecting the human ships to the Ven colony vessel. Ambassador Root stood with Captain Walker as they prepared for the transfer. "No one has ever attempted anything like this," Root said. "If this works, you will have saved not just lives, but our entire colony mission." Walker nodded. "We'll make it work." Humanity didn't come this far to fail now. The power transfer began slowly. Energy flowed through the magnetic fields, being transformed and tuned to match the crystal network's frequencies. The colony ship's systems started to respond, ancient crystals lighting up one by one. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Power spike in Section 3, Bill shouted. "The crystals are absorbing energy faster than we expected." The engineers worked frantically to adjust the magnetic fields. The colony ship's crystal network was so large it had begun to draw power like a hungry giant, threatening to overwhelm their systems. "Reverse polarity on generators 2 and 4, Peters ordered. "We need to control the flow." The Ven engineers joined in, using their knowledge to help stabilize their ship's crystal matrix. Slowly, the power levels began to even out. "It's working," Dr. Reed announced, watching the readings. "The crystal network is accepting the power transfer. Hibernation pods are stabilizing." Throughout the colony ship, systems came back online. The ship's own power plant began to function again, its crystal core pulsing with renewed energy. One by one, the warning lights on the hibernation pods turned from red to green. After 3 tense hours, the transfer was complete. The colony ship hummed with power, its crystal networks glowing brightly. The smaller ships were all stable, their systems fully restored. Ambassador Root's crystalline form shimmered with emotion. "You did it. You actually did it." Captain Walker looked out at the fleet, now glowing with restored power. "We all did it together." Human determination and Ven knowledge. But their celebration was cut short by an urgent alert from Earth. A massive solar flare had been detected, heading straight for their position. The rescue mission wasn't over yet. Now they had to protect both fleets from a natural disaster that could undo all their hard work. The real test of their combined strength was about to begin. Solar flare approaching. Impact in 40 minutes. The warning echoed through all 4 human rescue ships. On the Horizon's bridge, Captain Walker watched the massive wave of solar energy rushing toward them on the main screen. "How bad is it?" he asked Dr. Reed. She checked the readings with growing concern. "It's one of the largest flares we've recorded. The radiation alone could overload all our systems, and the Ven ships are even more vulnerable." The situation was critical. All 4 human ships were still connected to the Ven fleet through their power transfer systems. If they disconnected now, the alien vessels might lose power again. But if they stayed connected, both fleets risked destruction. Chief Engineer Peters spoke up from engineering. "Captain, the magnetic field generators weren't designed to handle this much energy. When that flare hits, it could cause a feedback loop through our entire network." Ambassador Root's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Captain Walker, you must disconnect your ships. Save your people. We can try to survive on our restored power." Walker looked at his crew. They had worked too hard to give up now. "There has to be another way." "Dr. Reed, what if we used our magnetic field network differently?" Her eyes widened as she understood. "The same fields we're using to transfer power. We could modify them to deflect the solar radiation. But we'd need enormous power to generate a shield that big." "What about the Ven crystals?" Bill suggested from his engineering station. "They store and channel energy in ways our technology can't match." A plan formed quickly. Instead of disconnecting, they would combine their technologies to create a shield. The human ship's magnetic fields would work together with the Ven's crystal networks to protect both fleets. "It's never been done before," Peters warned. "One wrong calculation, and we could lose everything." Walker opened a channel to all ships, human and Ven. "Listen up. We have 30 minutes to create the biggest energy shield ever attempted. I need everyone working together." The crews sprang into action. Human engineers reprogrammed their magnetic field generators, while Ven technicians adjusted their crystal matrices to channel power in new ways. The 4 human ships moved into a diamond formation around the Ven fleet. 20 minutes to impact. The modified magnetic fields began to form, creating a shimmering barrier in space. The Ven ship's crystal networks pulsed with energy, feeding power into the shield. 15 minutes. Warning alarms blared as the systems were pushed to their limits. Several power conduits overloaded, sending sparks flying across engineering decks. Repair teams rushed to fix them. 10 minutes. Flare's strength still increasing. The shield grew larger, enveloping both fleets in its protective embrace. But maintaining it was putting enormous strain on their ships. Temperature warnings flashed red across every console. 5 minutes. Everyone braced for impact. The solar flare struck the shield like an angry giant. The combined fleets shuddered from the impact. Energy readings went off the charts as the shield absorbed and deflected the massive surge of radiation. Shield holding at 60%. Dr. Reed shouted over the noise of straining engines. 50%. 40%. The Horizon's deck plates vibrated as the ship's systems were pushed beyond their design limits. Other ships reported similar strains, but no one disconnected. Human and Ven crews worked together, constantly adjusting their systems to maintain the shield. 30%. We just need to hold it a little longer. The minutes felt like hours as the flare battered their defenses. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the solar storm began to weaken. Flare intensity dropping. Dr. Reed announced. 20%, 15, 10. We did it. The flare is passing. As the danger passed, cheers erupted throughout both fleets. The shield had held. By working together, they had achieved something neither species could have done alone. Ambassador Root's message reached all ships. Today, we witnessed the birth of true cooperation between our peoples. Apart, we were vulnerable. Together, we proved unstoppable. The crisis was over, but it had changed everything. In facing destruction together, humans and Ven had forged a bond stronger than any diplomatic agreement. They had proved that unity and cooperation could overcome any challenge. But for Captain Walker and his crew, the most surprising revelation was yet to come. 2 days after surviving the solar flare, the combined fleet moved to a safer position in the solar system. The Horizon's mess hall had been converted into a makeshift meeting room, where representatives from both species gathered. Ambassador Root stood before the assembled human crews, their crystalline form glowing with an intensity they hadn't shown before. Captain Walker noticed that other Ven leaders had joined them, their presence making the room sparkle like a star-filled night. "What you have done for us goes beyond mere rescue," Root began, their translated words filled with emotion. "In our long history of space exploration, we have encountered many civilizations. Some were more technologically advanced than yours. Some had spread across hundreds of worlds. But none showed the qualities we witnessed here." The room fell silent as Root continued. "You came to help without knowing who we were. You found creative solutions to problems we thought impossible. You risked your lives to save ours, not once, but twice. These are not the actions of a young species. These are the actions of a great one." Another Ven stepped forward, introducing themselves as High Council Member Beam. Their presence caused even Root to bow slightly. "The Ven are part of what you might call a galactic council," Beam explained, "a union of spacefaring civilizations that work together to maintain peace and progress in our galaxy. Normally, a species as young as humanity would not be considered for membership for at least another century." Captain Walker and Admiral Wilson, who had arrived from Earth, exchanged glances. They hadn't expected this conversation to take such a turn. However, Beam continued, "Your actions have proven that technological advancement is not the only measure of a civilization's worth. Your innovation, courage, and most importantly, your compassion, have shown us that humanity has much to offer the galactic community." Admiral Wilson stepped forward. "Are you suggesting what I think you are?" Root's crystal form pulsed with light. "We are formally inviting Earth to join the Galactic Council with full membership status." The human crew members burst into excited whispers. Full membership in an alliance of advanced civilizations could change everything for humanity. "But there's more," Root added. "The way you combined your magnetic field technology with our crystal matrices to create that shield. It's something we never thought possible. Several civilizations in the Council have struggled to make their technologies work together. Your ability to adapt and integrate different systems is unique." Beam nodded. "We would like to establish a joint research center here in your solar system. A place where humans and other Council species can work together to solve problems in new ways. Your fresh perspective could help unlock mysteries that have puzzled us for centuries." Captain Walker looked around at his crew, seeing pride and amazement on their faces. "When we launched this rescue mission, we never imagined it would lead to this. The best achievements rarely come from careful planning," Root said, their crystal form twinkling. "They come from the heart, from doing what's right without expecting reward." Admiral Wilson accepted the invitation on behalf of Earth, pending formal approval from the UN Security Council. But everyone knew this was just a formality. No nation would turn down such an opportunity. As the meeting concluded, Dr. Reed had one last question. "You said you've met many civilizations. What makes humans so different?" Beam's answer was simple but profound. "Most species we encounter try to prove their worth through power or technology. Humanity proved its worth through kindness. In the end, that matters more than any advanced technology." The next few weeks would be busy with preparations for Earth's integration into the Galactic Council. There would be challenges ahead, cultural differences to navigate, and new technologies to understand. But as Captain Walker looked out at the Ven fleet, now fully restored and glowing with power, he knew humanity had found its place in the galaxy. Not through war or conquest, not through technological superiority, but through the simple act of helping those in need. The rescue mission had done more than save lives. It had opened the door to humanity's greatest adventure. And it all started with a simple choice to help strangers in trouble. Looking at his crew, Walker smiled. "Well," he said, "I guess this is just the beginning." Root's response caught the perfect tone. "Captain, the best beginnings always start with an act of kindness."